will be better next time I try. And even if I still can't do it, yeah, you know that I'm gonna stick to it. Yes, it's all about going through it, and I'm gonna tell you why. Whoopsie, whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo! Whoopsies, 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 whoopsies.
I'm a little embarrassed when I look at my drawing compared to this. I'm just not getting anywhere with this. It makes me wanna hide. Aw, don't be embarrassed. Don't hide.
You should have seen mine the first time I tried. It took a lot of whoopsies to look this way.
No one's perfect on their first day. Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay.
It's okay. Whoopsies are what it takes to get better and better every day. Whoopsie, 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 whoopsie.
Well, what about this? I want to jump rope, but nope, I just can't do it.
Well, not yet. Come on and practice with me. You'll see there's nothing to it.
Whoa! Whoopsie.
Whoopsies, I made a mistake and it's okay. It's okay. Whoopsies, help me look, see, I'm better at this today. Woo!
It was only a dream, the waves of evil crashing over us. It was only a weak and faithful scream beneath the battlements. I know it's hard, but for long, before it's too late. Wake up, my love, please don't give up on me. It's hard. Wake up.
What is up? What is up, you guys? We are back at it again. Another epic day here in 100 days of Rootkit. I hope you guys are hyped on our journey and ready for our next step that we're going to take today. All right? Even though I think some of you guys are sitting there like, I thought games were going to be easy and fun. And we talked about menus yesterday, and now I think game deving is a little too hard. I got to do something else. Shh. Silence, my child. It's going to be okay. All right? Don't worry. Don't worry. We got past the menus. You have the code. You can study it. You can reuse it. You can look at it. You can steal it. All right? It's there. You have it. All right? It's like a tool. All right? It's like a tool. You know, it's kind of like I don't know, with a power drill. All right? You might not know how the power tool is exactly working on the insides at first, and you may not even know what all the buttons on the power drill do. But you know that if you press the big button, it makes it go brrr, all right? That's all you need to know with the code right now, all right? Use it, all right? It starts with that, and then over time, you'll curiously be like, I wonder what this button does. Oh, this makes a lot more sense. This button makes it go brrr in the reverse order, right? So that's how, you know, the progression of things go. That's me. I didn't think it'd be easy by any means, but I promise you, programming is easy. It's just we've had a storm of shit just be dropped on you, all right? And it's been linear. So if you're not spending lots of time outside of this, you know, practicing, we teach one new thing a day, and then we teach another new thing and another new thing. Like every day we're teaching something new, and some of these concepts build on each other, and it's every day we're trying to teach a new thing. So if you're, you know, it's not because a lot of this is complex, it's just because like maybe there was something a little bit a while ago you didn't fully understand, and now that we've taught more things, it's kind of like, oh no, this thing keeps being brought up, I don't know what it means, and then it leads into other things getting messed up. It's okay though, because once you understand that building block, that whatever you're trying to like understand, it doesn't really make sense at first. Once you understand it, bam, snap, it will all make sense. Trust me, we all go through this when we're learning programming, all right? It all doesn't make sense at first, all right? Classes, like I said, I went pretty much a year without really understanding what classes did. And this was after multiple rewatches of videos, tutorials, reading books. Still didn't really make sense to me until literally all of a sudden one day, it was literally like magic, made sense. All right. I'm not saying it's going to take a year for you. I was doing other stuff through that year. So I wasn't like programming or practicing like class or object-oriented programming for any type of exam or anything. All right. But if you're going at it, like, you know, it could take you maybe a month if you're going at it every single day, but you'll get it. It will snap with you. And you're going to feel all the power rain in. All right. Understandably, listen to you. It's like I know nothing. I don't have much focus. Yeah, that's fine. It's because I'm typing out and explaining everything for you guys. Because the main power here is for you guys to go back and watch the videos and then try to redo a lot of this stuff yourself, especially the challenges, all right? Because this is our 100 days event where we're streaming and, you know, teaching you, but this is not using a lot of our, you know, our courseware and material and other things that we have that we usually facilitate to people in order for them to or gauge their knowledge, and it's more like customized experience. We don't, you know, have that luxury of being able to do that at such a great extent, because it's kind of, you know, some people are watching delayed, some people are just now starting the 100 days of Rootkit. You guys that are here right now are watching live, so there's scattered people. It's kind of hard to consistently help or grade all those people. I'm just trying to make excuses, all right? It's not me that's failing. It's you, all right? No, I'm just kidding. All right. So, let us chug along here, all right? Let us chug along here. So, we want to help you guys out, right? Because we know things are moving along at a steady, like locomotive pace, all right? And I've already explained why some of the things may be confusing to you. There's lots of things you can do to help yourself out, all right? And we'll get into those right after I finish up the intro here. If you don't know, we're a Rootkit nonprofit here in the US of A, all right? We do lots of things like for free, like 100 Days of Rootkit, where we're teaching you everything you need to know to get our Comp Sci Cert, which is a complete replacement to a college degree. Additionally, don't go to any other boot camps, all right? They're just as scammy as colleges, all right? They're going to take lots of money and barely teach you anything. You don't believe me? Go look at any boot camp and what they'll teach you, and then look at what we're going to teach you, all right? They're not going to even hit a quarter of it. And guess what? All this content's on YouTube. It's free. The cert exam costs money, except if you're watching during the 100 Days of Rootkit event, which you guys are. So you get a waiver, all right? For those of you that are watching way after the fact this isn't live, it will be, the plan right now is $2.99. I don't know if that will change later on, but $2.99, all right? Which is, I wish I had that, all right? I wish I had that when I was trying to get in the dev world, because that's so cheap. Are you kidding me? You go to a boot camp for up to $20,000. You go to college for $100,000, or I paid $300. This must be a scam, right? Right? That's the only logic. I have $300. Figure it out, I guess. Additionally, on top of all this free stuff, we have our week 8 giveaway going on, all right? So you can enter in this completely free. You just need to subscribe to our YouTube channel and various other things. You can't just subscribe to our YouTube channel. You have to enter right here by clicking this green button, and then subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Twitch, etc., etc. You can do this week after week after week. And you can get yourself a mystery merch item. What will it be? We're just going to roll a number and see what merch it matches up with, and then give you that merch. If you like what we're doing and you want to help support us, there's several ways to do it. There's our Patreon, Discord premium membership, which I'm in the events chat if anyone wants to join along in chat. Additionally, we have a link in the description of the video, and if you're on Twitch, somewhere in the bio, for the Streamlabs charity event link. If you go here, you can donate to us. All donations are being matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations, and those matching donations come in at the end of the month. Additionally, depending on how much you donate, you can get rewards like our epic stickers, our epic collab t-shirt, and this awesome sweater. Look at this thing. Look at this. It has Rootkit on the back. Man, you'll be just slaying, right? Slaying out there if you have this thing. So, hey, help us out. Doing stuff for free is very expensive, all right? That's all I gotta say. All right. So, let us chug along here. So, you have all this stuff. It's recorded. You can go back and rewatch, which is a powerful tool for you to utilize. Additionally, we live in the world of machine learning and literally open, free, available, cheap machine learning additionally. So use it to your advantage. If you're not, then you're just, look, the world's changing. You either stay up with the world or you die with the rest of the oldies, all right? You can be one of those people that are deving in Java 8 20 years later, all right? AI companions are a thing. They exist now. Use them. It's not cheating. Copy, pasting, stealing, laziness, greed, it's all about the programming realm, all right? Look at Google, all right? Look at Meta. Come on. That's some of the world's best programmers are at that company. Tell me greed isn't a quintessential part of being one of the best programmers in the world, all right? So do it. Don't be an idiot. Don't be like, oh, but I'm more skilled because I'm doing it from scratch. No, you're just being an idiot, all right? What do I mean by this? Don't use ChatGPT. ChatGPT is fucking hot garbage. All right, absolute fucking trash. There are multiple different applications by OpenAI. Go to OpenAI's site. Do not use ChatGPT. ChatGPT is trash. It's garbage. ChatGPT, they made it. It's one of their offerings. Use raw GPT's model or Codex. What is Codex, you ask? Great question. Codex is going to be your new best friend, especially if you're trying to get into programming, all right? Especially if you are lost in the sauce. Make an account on this site. You can do that by going to API and then logging in. Let me pull this off to the side here just to make sure nothing weird is going on. I think I'm short on this one. I might have to switch to my other account. Give me 1 second. Let's see it real quick. You'll see right here, code completion, limited beta. I don't think we're going to click on this one. This is basically the documentation for it. But if we go back to our main page, we can go to the playground. All right. The playground by default is raw GPT, not the shitty chat GPT. All right. Raw GPT allows you to do a lot more. If you click on the drop down here, you'll see there's lots of different models available of GPT. All right, DaVinci 3 is the best all-around model that's available. It can do stuff with code. It's not meant for stuff with code though. If you go over to the Codex section, these ones are meant for code. These ones are trained for code. If you read right here, Codex can generate code, including translating language into code. It can process up to 4,000 token requests. And there's also a JavaScript demo available. So how do we go about using it? Well, if we click on it, we'll see there's an example that generates right here. Holy crap. There's an example that generates right here. So this is for JavaScript. All right, this is for JavaScript. Maybe you want to program in JavaScript, maybe you don't. Create a JavaScript dictionary of 5 countries and a capital. If I click run, why is it doing in Java? Well, look at that. It's running code in Java. I think it's because that was just the default placeholder text. So let's do this. Create a person class in Python that allows. Let's just do something simple. Create a person class in Python. Run that. Look at that. All right, I don't need you to, okay. Sometimes it keeps going on a little too far along, so you might want to mess with some of these, but look at that. It just generated valid Python code for a person class that takes a name and an age and shows you how to create an object with that class and then how to print those items attached to it. It's pretty cool, right? Pretty cool. Yeah, I can drop the link. So on top of this, it doesn't just generate stuff, because generating stuff is basic bitch stuff. All right, that's what everyone and their dog does in the AI field now. All right, generation, it's been conquered, it's been done, it's hearsay. All right, the cool new stuff goes beyond that. Comprehension, to a total new level of comprehension. What does that mean? All right, let's see here. If we go ahead and grab our Python code, let's say you don't understand what this menu class is doing that we just made here. Copy it. Go over to this. Paste the menu class in here. If you don't know what steps to do or what this is capable of, go to the documentation. Right? The documentation will tell you all about how to use this. So they have a bunch of examples in a bunch of different languages on what you can utilize it for. How you can use different languages, Ruby, Python, Java, JavaScript, you name it, it works in it. And if we scroll down to the bottom here, because that's where just the TLDR stuff is, you can use it to write code. You can use it to refactor code. What does refactoring code mean? It means taking your inefficient or less efficient usually less dry code, and it will automatically try to make it as dry as possible. So you give it this code, it will turn it into this code. It will help you rename stuff. And look at this one. This is the key one right here. Add documentation. Add documentation. If you don't know what code does, you can have this thing explain it to you. All right, you can have it literally explain it to you. So let's go ahead and try doing that here. So look like their example, insert, edit. I think we're supposed to be in insert mode. Complete mode, edit mode. Here we go. Sorry, edit mode. So on here, we got to go to edit mode. So we got their input, and then our instruction. We'll say add documentation. Documentation. Submit. God, you son of a bitch. Of course. All right. I've ran out of money on my account. So give me 1 second. Let me switch my account here. All right, we've switched accounts here. So let's go ahead and go to that. Let's go to Codex. Let's copy this code, paste it here, zoom in for you guys, exit out of this, minimize that. There we go. Add documentation. All right, submit. There we go. We got free documentation. All right. We didn't have to do a single thing. Programming life is about being as lazy as possible. This is Pinnacle laziness, which means it's a Pinnacle developer tool. If we go in here, we can see that it didn't just add basic documentation. It added in-depth documentation with extra features, which we're going to talk about right now in our code. So let's just take a look at this for a second. It tells us that a class that represents a menu. Then next it says this is for initializing our menu. This is add a menu item to the menu, and it takes these parameters. It takes some text and some type of function. All right, the function to run when the menu is selected. Look at that. It was able to figure this out, all right, from reading the code. Even though there's absolutely no code right here in this function that does that, it's just meant for appending. This knows because it's read things. Text to display, all right? Displaying the menu. Display the menu right here. Function. Run the function of the selected menu item, menu index. This is okay. It kind of messed up the documentation a little bit. I think it's because of my comment right here, kind of threw it off. This is in par with this stuff right here, right? So these are combined together, and it's telling you exactly what this is going to do, all right? It tells you what this is exactly going to do. This is a very powerful tool, especially if you're trying to figure out how to do stuff, or if you don't understand how something is done. You can use this in multiple different modes. Completion mode, where you can ask it to write code for you. And then there's edit mode, where you can have it edit some code for you and do stuff like adding documentation. Additionally, there's insert mode, which I believe insert mode is for, what was the other example we looked at? Come back over here. I think insert mode is for renaming, or maybe it's just for inserting, like, I mean, it would make sense. Documentation would, I don't know. You mess with it, you figure it out yourself. All right, the point is there's tools out here that can help you in your journey. All right, any questions on that? Do not do this in ChatGPT. It's not going to work. It's not going to work. Don't waste your time. All right, it's just a load of garbage. It's meant to entertain people with a chatbot experience. Chatbot experience is not code development. Codex is literally a specific model trained on code to do these things. All right. All right, any questions? I don't see any questions, so we're going to continue on. The one thing I wanted to do is, here's our original code. I want to take the auto-documented code that we got, and I guess I guess when I switched my tab there, it removed the documentation. So I have to let me regenerate the documentation first. Let me remove these comments here. Let me regenerate the documentation. The best direction I can give you when you are messing with these models, don't act like it's a robot. Talk to it like it's a human, all right? Because it's trained on normal human text and speech. It will react best when you talk to it like it's an actual human. So if I were to tell you, make me an Excel spreadsheet about last year's sales, that's what you want to tell it to, all right? And it will just do it. So let's go ahead and grab this. The documentation, as you can see, is slightly different now, but it shouldn't matter, all right? It should not matter. Let's go ahead and look at this. As you can see, it added a lot of documentation. This is a lot more than it did last time, all right? Which can come with pros and cons. We'll take a look at it. There's something it didn't add, which I'm kind of mad about, but we'll show you what I wanted to also show today. Let me zoom in a little bit more. So you can see this is pretty detailed. No limit to amount of menu items. That is correct. Selected function needs to be specified when adding a menu item. The order in which the menu items are displayed is the same in the order in which they were added. That's correct too. Yada, yada, yada. All right, we're not going to go through all this documentation. All right, but I do want to show that now if we hover over our, if we hover over some of the items we've made now, all right, if we hover over some of the items we've made now, you'll see this text now shows up, which is pretty neat. All right, this text will now show up. If you look, initializes an empty list to store the menu items. That is what it says right here. All right, there's a special type of comment that you guys can see here happening. It's the triple quote comment, right? The triple quote comment. This is called a doc string, right? A doc string. This is meant for documenting functions and classes and having them show up automatically as helpful tooltips. All right, so it looks like this one's the only one that's really working right now, but it comes up as a helpful tooltip. The first time we generated the documentation, it did it in a more proper fashion. So there is some bugs here. So the bugs with their comments is to have the doc string, this thing, show up when you hover. All right, it needs to be somewhere specific in your code. It needs to be right below the def. All right, right below the def, like how this one is right below the def, so it works. There is no doc string below this def. That's why it's not working. Additionally, right here, you need, if you want a doc string for the menu class at whole, so if you hover over, you'll see this shows up now. See how nice this is? It's the same thing. You need it right below the class, right, to get it to show up for as like the help menu for this class. So in order to fix this stuff, looks like it put the doc string right here for the add menu items. So if we copy that and we paste it right here, and this one's for display menu items, so we'll copy that and we'll put it right here, and this one's for the run item, so we'll copy that and we'll put it right here. Bam. Now this is all properly documented because we have our function that's being made, and below that we have our doc string. You can see now when we hover over, you'll get your documentation that shows up. And additionally here, if we hover over these items, you'll see our documentation shows up, which is really cool. One thing this is missing right now that was showing up before is there are some special characters in here. Like as you can see, the TAC will show up as a bullet point, and there's also colon params, and if I say something like text, I believe this is the format for it. I'm forgetting it right now, but there's other special format characters that you can utilize in order to kind of link more closely to this stuff that you require in your in your function in order to run it. Any questions on this before we move forward? With things like OpenAI and ChatGPT around, what does that mean for us in the future web devs? Nothing. It means absolutely nothing. It's just a tool for you to use. As you can see, it can't even get documentation correct, all right, in the right place. If you want to see how far along AI is for development, which it's not very far along and you're not going to be replaced by it, you can go over to this link I'll send you guys and check out this. All right, you can check out this. This is basically you creating a game. If you tell it to create a game, let's say provide instructions, make a game, a Mario clone game. If I run this, it's not going to work. So you can see it's writing code to make our Mario clone game. And this is what we get. All right. We can also see that it did it get mouse key movement? I think it got key movement. Oh, yeah, it did. It got even programmed in key movement. All right. This is not a Mario game. As this develops, it will become a pinnacle developer tool. So you no longer have to waste your time making crappy, shitty boiler code. You can use this to generate boiler code, and then you, using your valuable limited time, can now spend it on more important things. All right, like creating new solutions to new problems. AI is never going to get to that point. There will always have to be something that is creating it to a certain point. For example, if there was an AI that was just there, it could replace a developer, it still won't be good enough to think of something greater than it, if that makes sense. All right. At least right now with our limited technology, it will never think of something greater than it. What does that mean? If I tell it to make an AI bot, if I tell it to make a new model from scratch, program one from scratch, that can do everything it can currently do and more. It can like think more in depth or something like that. It's not going to know that because it's only been trained and taught up to that point. It only knows what to do up to that point. It doesn't know anything more. All right. So for the foreseeable future, this is going to be your best tool. You should be using it if you're a dev. It's going to make you dev faster. What does dev fastering mean? It means you're doing better than your peers. What does that mean? It means you get more promotions, you get more pay, and you get accelerated growth. All right, so do it. Just do it. All right, let's see here. It's kind of like look, when you start getting older and older, you're going to see reoccurring patterns. All right, when robots started getting introduced into factories, everyone was doing the same little panic of, oh, they're going to take everyone's jobs. There's going to be no more people on these factories. It's all going to be ran by robots. Is that the case? No. Are there still people working in factories? Yes. They're very limited, right? They do great amounts of works in factories. They're not going to replace anyone, right? They're not going to replace everyone, right? They're going to replace a good amount of people, not everyone. And additionally, It's not like they're removing jobs. There's just new jobs in a different field. Who's going to make those robots? Who's going to program those robots? All right. New jobs, different area. All right. Let's see here. Why does the tack turn into a bullet point? Why does the tack turn into a bullet point? Good question. All right. This is using, I believe, Markdown language. So Markdown. So anything that's valid in your README, I believe should be valid in here. Don't quote me on this. I am a bad dev when it comes to documentation. Yeah, there. It uses Markdown. All right. Markdown is kind of like a language like HTML. It's just more of a clarity syntax. So Markdown cheat sheet. So if we look at Markdown, you'll see this will tell us Markdown. So heading is how to make big, bold stuff. You know, the heading of your page. This is how you can bold things, italicize, do block quotes, ordered lists, unordered lists. If you're going to add code, all right? So if I wanted to have something show up kind of like code, I can use tildes. If I hover over, you'll see it will show up now, and whoops, it'll show up now in this format. You can even include links and images, all right? And there's a bunch of other stuff. You can go check this out on your own time, all right? Markdown is important for you to know, at least know some of the key items, because when you make your README files here, you're going to be using Markdown, all right? Yep, Markdown. All right, sweet. Any other questions? All right. So now I showed you guys an alternative to get documentation for your code instead of paying for Discord Premium or the Patreon. Let us continue now. Just know those services do cost money. They give you, when you first make your account, like $10 or $20 for free, but you'll run through it very quickly. All right, trust me. I mess with it a lot. You'll run through it really quick. So let us continue onward with our game. We made our menu. Our menu works. Our menu is awesome. I gave you guys a challenge yesterday, which was to modify this code to allow for a third option that would be an argument that gets passed into the function here. All right. So how do we go about it? I saw there was a couple of temps which were super awesome. I like it. But no one got it 100%. So let's go and show this off. We already have this part done. So we want this to be the extra arguments that get passed to our print statement when we execute, all right? When we execute this function, this action, all right? If we go to our menu here, we need to add some new stuff, all right? We need to add some new stuff. If we go over to add menu item, this is the first place we need to go because we're adding a new, we're gonna have add menu item right here. We're adding a new menu item. So this needs to be a new parameter we can handle, all right? And it looks like the way we want to set it up is sometimes we have this parameter, sometimes we don't, which is a clear sign that we need a optional parameter, all right? An optional parameter. Let me see, was there another question or was this one just, yeah, this one was just delayed. So if we go over to our menu here, we need to add another parameter here. So let's add another one. This needs to be an optional one. So let's call this param, and this is going to be equal to, what is it going to be equal to by default? We're going to say none. So by default, there's nothing in the parameter. Don't do anything, all right? So that's cool. Now we need to store this somewhere, and we have an array where we're storing everything else all together. So we'll just put in our param right there. All right, it's that simple. That simple to make the addition to our add menu item. Now the next step is to add this to our function when it executes. But now we have this none. we can now tell, you know, if it's none, then don't add this to the parameters of our function, right? Because sometimes you don't want to add anything, all right? If this is not none, then we want to add whatever it is to the parameters of the function. So what I mean by that? Well, here's our function right here. So by default, we want it to run like this. If params here is none. When is params going to be none right now? Only for quit. Because we don't need to pass anything to exit. Exit's just going to exit the game. But print, when we print, we want to print out this text also. So we need to pass this to print. So if we go right here, we can make some logic, right? We can make some logic and we can say if the so this is the first item, we want to get the third, sorry, this is the second item, we want to get the third item. So if we say 2 is not none. If it's not none, well, I guess we could just do it this way. Is none, then we just go about normal, else, whoops. Grab this, grab this, grab this, grab that, and there we go. We're done. That's it. All right. It was just a couple lines of code that you guys needed to add. All right. So what's going on here? Well, if this item number 3 here, this is item number 3 right here, param is none, right? Which it does equal that by default. It means we don't want to pass any extra parameters to this function that we're running, right? If it is not none, aka we passed it that string here, then we do want to pass this on to our parameter here. So that's what we're doing right here. In those parentheses, we're putting in what we want to pass along. So if we save this and we run our program now, cd dungeon, there we go, and we do our Python main, there we go. If we do something like scores, if we try to run scores now, so if we select scores, it should run the print statement with this string stuffed into it. So we should see this get printed out onto the terminal. So if we do 1 and press enter, you're going to see it now says print this stuff also. If we rerun this again and say and select start game, it's going to say print this. So let's do that, and it says print this, which is pretty cool. And if we do exit, which is 2, you're going to see we just exit the game. No errors are showing up, nothing crazy is going on. All right, so this is really cool and really useful. It allows us now the possibility of passing in parameters, all right, to the function that we want to execute. All right, so that was how to complete the menu challenge, right? It's just a couple lines of code that need to be added. All right, let us chug along. All right, let's chug along. I think we've all seen enough of menu. All right, and we're all ready for the menu to just go away and act like it never existed. All right, so let's move away from it. The big concept for you guys to take away from menu. All right, because again, like I said, this is kind of a pro gamer move. I don't expect you guys to think of or program this out, all right, at the beginning. The big thing is classes. Use classes. Make methods on those classes. Do your logic in here, all right? And try to make it open and dynamic enough where you can reuse it multiple different times. And it's okay to also have it as one-off, right? Is there going to be a new game we make where we aren't cloning what's been done before? I think that's also how I've continued to mess up. Is there going to be a new game we make where we aren't cloning what's been done before? Like, you mean our code? Because technically we wrote this all from scratch. And we're going to be building upon this. I'm kind of confused on the question a little bit. There you go. We've been cloning from previous games. We haven't really been cloning from any previous games we've made so far. I mean, we made 2 different games so far, right? Our word guessing game and epic game. Were those the 2 games? And so now we're doing Dungeon Crawler. All right, let us continue on here. So we got our menu. We need the game to start. We need the game to start now, all right? How do we go about having the game start? Great question. Baby steps, all right? Baby steps. We should probably have a new function that's for starting the game. And we can have it run by putting it right here and replacing print with maybe like game loop. So let us see here. We can make the game be patrolled by different things. One could be a function, one could be a class. Let's go ahead and just do it with the function for now, because I think that will be proficient, but it always depends on what you're doing. If you made it with a class, that would be something like a game master or something that would be patrolling it. Lots of different games have their own concepts of like game masters, or I'm trying to think of what some of the other ones call it. It's basically a system that monitors and holds the game together, right? So we're going to make one here. We're going to call it game. We could just call it game. I'm going to call it game loop. All right. So we have a new function here called game loop. All right. If we print this, if we do a print and say we are now playing the game. All right. So this is going to have our logic for playing the game, right? For actually playing the game. If we want to activate this, we've already built the functionality for it in our menu. We can copy the name game loop, go up here to print, remove print and replace it with game loop, and we're not passing anything to game loop. So we can remove this section right here. All right. So there we go. We can now start the game loop. So if we rerun this, and we click on 0, press enter, you're going to see it now says we are now playing the game with the nice little typo there. Because this function is being executed when we choose this menu item, and now we are over here playing the game. We, of course, don't have all of our game logic done, but this is, you know, the concept that we're going to use, and we're going to use as a wrapper for our game moving forward here. All right, let me just make sure there's no questions. All right, so let's go ahead and check our comments in our design doc to see exactly how we need to go about this. So if they start the game, we need to start the game loop, which we're doing right now. We need to load whatever floor they're on, or level they're on, or I guess how many enemies they've killed. We need to spawn an enemy, then fight an enemy. In order to spawn an enemy and fight an enemy, we're also going to need a player. All right, we're going to need a player. Okay, perfect. Yeah, Kamal, I mean, you're watching on YouTube. You can pause it real quick and then just go back and then look real quick. Or maybe just open both side by side. Yeah, you can also open both of them side by side if you'd like also. Yeah, I can pause my screen when we get to like a pausing section, but when we're moving forward with our little teaching bits, I can't really do much there. So it looks like for us to continue forward, we're going to need to make an enemy class. We're going to need to make our player class. And then we're going to have to figure out maybe some stat stuff here. All right, so let's go ahead and make our player and our, we have it labeled here as mobs. So let's do that. So we have a file here called menu. We don't want to make it in there. Main shouldn't really have anything in it besides ideally your main function. All right, ideally your main function, but we have our game loop here going on. I think we're going to keep our game loop in here for now, at least, because it's a part of our main. All right, but ideally you may or may not want to include this. This is totally up to each person, but it wouldn't be appropriate to really put in our classes in here, for example, for our what do you call it, why am I blanking on this, for our player and mobs. So let's make another one for our player and maybe another file for our mobs. All right, it's fine to break this out, or maybe we can call it, since player and mobs will, it's up to you on how much you want to break this up. I think we can combine both of them in the same file, and we'll just call it fightable. All right, we'll just call this one fightable, fightable.py. All right, we have a new file called fightable.py. Now, again, this is up to you. You can have each class in its own file, or you can kind of combine a lot of them in the same file. It's totally up to you. I think we can just combine them all up in the same file. Again, this is organizational techniques, so it's totally up to you on how you want to go about organizing your stuff. All right, let's see here. So let's kind of use a little bit of inheritance like we showed off before, because I think that might be the most valuable play here. So we'll call this new class here our fightable, our fightable mob. Yeah, maybe we should just call it fightable. I don't know, we'll just call it fightable. All right, so remember, default class layout, class name parentheses colon def underscore underscore init underscore underscore parentheses with self in it colon, and then you can just put a pass to finish it up if you want. This is what you should be writing every single time you make a new class by default. All right, muscle memory, keep doing it, keep making things. All right, this is what it should look like every single time. All right, so in here, if they're going to be fighting people and fighting things, we should probably have some concept of health. All right, they should probably have some concept of for our health, I guess we should have self dot max health and then current health. All right, because we need to know, again, this is a part of like thinking things out. If we only had health, if we only had self.health, if we only had self.health and you try to heal, how do you know where to stop healing? Are you going to heal to 100? Are you going to heal past 100? You need to know what your current max health is, what the most your health can potentially be. This is why you got to have 2 variables for your health, at least, right? At least 2 for your health. Additionally, I told you guys yesterday, anytime you see yourself naming things like this, like max and then health, current and then health, the common thing here, if I spell health right, is these are all a part of this health concept. This might be an indicator of another class you can make. I'm not going to make another class for this, but depending on how much complexity you have going on with, let's say, health, you may want to make this into a new class. All right, so always use that common denominator there as a potential indicator that it could be its own class. All right, let's see here. Or where to start if not at full health. Exactly. So let's see here. For our fightable, we're going to have it so the default current health is going to be let's say current health. Well, our current health, let's move this around a little bit. Let's put max health at the front because we want everything to spawn in with max health. So we'll put max health at the front. We'll say current health is equal to max health, and then max health is equal to, and then we'll call this, we'll ask for an optional parameter called health. We'll have health start at 10, and then health will be equal to max health. So again, what is going on here? We have an optional parameter, which means they don't need to give us this, but if they do, it's going to be called health. By default, health is going to be equal to 10. We're going to have our max health equal to 10. All right, if you spawn this character by default. And by default, our current health will be at full health, which is going to be 10. All right. So on top of this, we're going to need concepts of, maybe we'll do like self dot your base defense. I don't know, let's put it as a 1. Why? We need some type of base defense. And let's do base attack equals, I don't know, 5. And I think that should be good, right? We don't want to get too complicated with this stuff, right? So one step at a time. So let's just do this for now. All right. And additionally, things should be able to fight each other. So let's have some new methods here. We'll call one attack. And this will be self, because all methods need to have self inside of them. All right. When we attack, we want to return some type of attack damage value. What is that going to be by default? We'll just have it so it's our base attack. I guess it should be like base attack like this. We can always revisit this and change it later. And since we're making it as a class that everyone's going to inherit from, when we change this here once, it will change everything else everywhere. So that's very nice, very convenient. Let's also make another thing called def defense. Take damage. Let's do the take damage thing. And this is going to be for our current health. So we're going to have our current health going to be plus equal to the damage. Should just be minus equal to, right? All right. So our health is going to be modified by the damage. And then I guess we should have another thing that is alive. This is going to just return to us if we're alive or not. So if our self dot current health is less than or equal to 0, return false, else return true. All right. Why do we have these two returns like this? Well, remember, return will end a function immediately on that line. So our function is going to end immediately on this line if we ever hit this return. So instead of doing an else, which we could do an else, that would be fine and valid. This would be fine and valid. But you don't even need an else here because this is guaranteed to end right here on this line if you ever hit it. So you can we can just remove it and we can just have it like this. All right. So if we are alive, so if we ask if we are still alive or not, we're going to see if our current health is less than or equal to 0, right? If it's less than or equal to 0, we're dead. So we're going to return false. We're not alive anymore. All right. And if anything else, we're going to return true. All right. So I think these are pretty good basic things for anyone that's potentially fightable. So now we can use inheritance to make some new classes based off of fightable and add some maybe extra things, extra perks. All right. So we can do a class for our character. So let's call this, I don't know, our hero. So In here, like always, we're always going to make this init. So I'm going to go ahead and call this init. I'm going to copy that code from there. I'm going to remove this stuff. All right, and now we have our init. All right, now remember, also we got to do our inheritance. So that means inside of here, right here, we need to say who we want to inherit from. We want to inherit from Fightable. All right, so our hero is now inheriting from Fightable. Remember though, whenever we have functions that are named the same thing as a function in the previous class, the parent class, we're overwriting it all. All of this is being overwritten and will not run, will not execute, and will not be a part of our hero. All right, so to get around that, to add it back in, we have to use super. All right, so we have to say super, so that's the parent, and we got to say underscore underscore dot underscore underscore init, and then it's a function that we need to execute, so we're going to put our parentheses there, and now we've re-added everything from this back into our hero. All right, maybe we want our hero to spawn in with a little bit of extra health. So in here, we can say health is equal to maybe 20. All right, our hero gets twice as much health compared to the normal Fightable class. All right. Additionally, our hero might have extra things, like maybe they have a concept of an inventory. So we'll say self.inventory, and maybe the inventory is just an array of stuff. I don't know. We'll figure this part out later. We're just going to add that in here. So additionally, they may have something like equipped it in their primary hand. All right, their primary weapon maybe. All right, let's make our game super simple and let's just do primary weapon. So self dot primary weapon. All right, what is that going to be by default? Well, he doesn't get spawned in with any weapons, so let's just make that none, which is nothing. Right, he has absolutely nothing as his primary weapon. By default, we'll assume if you have nothing as your primary weapon, that will mean your fisticuffs. All right, it will mean your fisticuffs. All right, if we continue on forward here, we can go ahead and maybe we want to do some modifications to the attack. All right, maybe we want to make some modifications to the attack here because we're not happy or sufficient with this. All right, so we're going to go ahead and do def attack. All right, and when I press tab, it auto wrote all this code for us, which is really, really great. It's going to get our previous logic here. So you can choose yourself whether you want to use this previous logic or not. I think for our hero, we're going to have some more special custom logic where we're going to use the primary weapon to then calculate what additional damage we do. All right, so let's go ahead and we have this concept of self.base attack damage. All right, if we have a primary if we have a primary weapon. If we have a primary weapon, we want to return our self.base attack damage plus whatever weapon whatever damage our primary weapon does. Interesting, we don't have a concept right now of figuring out how much this should be doing. So let's go ahead and just put a to do here and say to do figure out primary weapon logic. And then if they don't have, anything else, if they don't have a primary weapon, we can do an else here, but we can also just remove the else and do just straight up a return. All right, we can do just straight up return because again, a return will end things. So if this will end it immediately right here, if they have a weapon, that means this line will only run if they don't have a weapon. This is basically a built-in else. All right, it's not really an else, but we know only other things other than if they have a primary weapon or not is going to run. If you are confused on why this works, we've talked about it before. 0 and 1, false and true. All right, 0, 1, false and true. Nothing is the equivalent to 0, right? Nothing is the equivalent to 0. Nothing is the equivalent to false, all right? So if we have nothing, that's not true, and this will not run. So that's why this is working. You can additionally do, if you want, it's not required, but you can if you want. You can spell it out, and you can say if the primary weapon is not none, right? Is not none. What does not do? Again, it gives you the opposite, and I told you none is the equivalent of doing something like false or 0. So this is going to be the opposite of what false is. False is true. So if it is true, then it works, right? Is a special keyword. I'm pretty sure we've talked about it before. Is a special keyword. It is not the equivalent to equal to, all right? It is not the same as that. Is seeing if it's a particular like variable type. Maybe we haven't talked about it too much. All right, just avoid using is right now. We'll talk about it a little bit more on another day. All right, so we have our custom attack logic here. All right, is alive we don't need to change because that's going to be the same for a hero. Take damage we're not going to change right now because we aren't going to have anything in regards to defense. At least right now we don't have anything programmed in. We just have primary weapon. So attack is just going to be a-okay, right? Attack is just going to be a-okay. Before we go on break, let's just go ahead and make another class called mob. All right, this is going to inherit from fightable, and this for right now will pretty much we'll just copy this part, get rid of this extra bit right here, and we'll call this good for now. There's a lot of stuff we can do for our mob to customize it, but we'll keep it like this right now. So it's pretty much basic. It's pretty much exactly what fightable does, right? It's pretty much exactly the same as fightable. We're going to keep it here because we know we're going to make alterations. What type of alterations? Well, mobs should drop things, right? So they should have like a drop table maybe attached to them. So we definitely need to add that and maybe some other stuff. So, and we don't want drop tables a part of fightable because our hero doesn't need a drop table. All right, he doesn't need a drop table, so we don't want to add it here. We should only be adding it to mob. Let's see here. Or maybe wouldn't attack be self.current health minus base attack? Did I mess up my stuff here? Attack is base. Wait a second. Or is what you wrote the same thing, just shorthand? That I wrote it with shorthand. If you're talking about take damage is going to be minus equal to damage. So it's the shorthand version. All right. So it's the shorthand version of this. It's just going to decrement this value by whatever the damage was. So if my current health is 100, we're just going to decrement it by, let's say the damage was 5. So by 5. So my current health will now be 95. For the one above it, for attack. Attack doesn't do anything except return what the attack is, which right now is 5. Yeah, attack just returns what the attack value is, which is just 5 right now. And then same thing with this one. It just both times, it's the exact same logic. It's just 5. It's because we don't have anything for our weapons right now, which we wrote it to do, so we know we need to do that, but we won't really worry about it too much because one bit at a time, all right? One bit at a time. We made fightable, then we made hero, then we made mob. We learned some other things we need to do the way, but we're just going to ignore it so we can just move forward, all right? How much, I think attack would just be the value. How much damage gets done when the attack is taken? Well, we can look here. So, for example, if mob right now is just fightable. Since we have nothing done to it, we can just look at fightable. So if let's say one of the mobs were going to attack another mob, so let's say a goblin was going to attack another goblin, all right, they would both have an attack of 5. So when they attack, they would both do 5 damage. And when they take damage, defense right now is not incorporated, so they'll both take 5 damage straight to the head, and they both get 10 health at the beginning. So basically both of their healths would start at 10. One would attack the other for 5 damage, and its health would change to 5. This one would attack the other one for 5 damage, it would change its health to 5. This one would attack the other one for 5 damage, this one would be dead. Alright, we're going to show that right after the break. So on the return on the new health, we're not returning anything for the health. Alright, it's just going to be modifying health. We'll show, let's go on break, and we'll show how our game currently works right now. And it is technically fully functional. Alright, it is fully functional right now. So let's show how we can run our game after the break. Alright, so I'll see you guys in like 3 to 5 minutes. Alrighty. We are back to continue our journey with getting cancer. Alright, I hope you guys are excited. At least we're getting cancer with games, alright? What better way to go out? Alright? Getting cancer from making and playing games. So, before we jump into that, if you guys aren't aware, not this tab, we are Rootkit Nonprofit here based in the US of A. We like doing a lot of things for free. Well, that's why we got 100 days of Rootkit going on. Watch till the end. All the 100 days end, alright? Get your comp sci cert for us. Skip college, skip everything. We'll get you a job, alright? Get the cert. And then it's golden for you. It's golden. On top of all that free stuff, we have our Week 8 giveaway live. All right, go to our site, click on blog, Week 8 giveaway. Doesn't cost a single thing. You just go on here, press the green button, then verify that you're subscribed to our YouTube channel, follow our Twitch, other basic thing like that, and you could win yourself a mystery item. What is it going to be? It's going to be one of our merch items. We roll it here live so you guys can see. If you like what we're doing and you want to help support us, we have a link in the description of the video, and also if you're watching this on Twitch, is somewhere down below, where you can go to this site here. All donations that are done to, we are a charity, all right? Avoid those taxes, all right? If you donate to us, it's 100% tax deductible, all right? Avoid those taxes. Donate to us today, all right? All donations are matched 1-for-1 for the first 10,000 donations. Those come through at the end of every single month. Depending on how much you donate, you can unlock certain rewards, like our epic stickers, our collab t-shirt, and this exclusive epic sweater. Look at this thing. Look at this thing, all right? Even says Rootkit on the back. How cool is that? Alrighty, let us get back into it. All right, let us get back into it. So as a recap, we didn't do anything crazy, all right? We just made our fightable class, which is the base for anything that can fight each other, all right? It's just some base functionality and stats for anything that it can fight each other, all right? From that, we utilize inheritance, which is an object-oriented programming concept, to make 2 new classes, all right? One for our hero and one for mobs. The mobs we're not doing anything with right now. It's pretty much a copy of the fightable class. But the hero, we have some special stuff going on, like concept of inventory system, primary weapon, and it looks like we may need some extra logic for our primary weapon, but we're not going to worry about that right now. We're just getting our characters set up. All right, so let's just worry about that. It looks like all of our characters and mobs right now have a way to take it, do an attack, take damage, and check if they're alive. This is right now is a complete playable game. All we have to do is add it to our game loop. So let's go ahead and do that. Let's see if we can make our game right now, and we'll make it so it automatically plays itself, and we can see it live here going on. So what we can do is when our game loop starts, we want to go ahead, not in the actual loop, all right? We don't actually have a loop here. There's no while loop that's doing the looping, right? So outside of the while loop, this is where we're going to want to make our character, all right? Our player. So our player is going to be equal to what? Well, it's going to be equal to hero. Now remember, hero is not going to show up right off the bat. Why? Because we haven't imported it. All right, so we got to go up here and say import fightable. All right, once we import fightable, now we have access to everything we made in this fightable file. All right, except everything in fightable is wrapped up in this fightable variable. So to get access to it, we can do a dot, and then we can see right here, here's mob, hero, and fightable. So let's say hero. To make a object from the class, we got to add those parentheses, and now we've manufactured our hero, our player. All right, so now we have a player. Our game loop most likely will be keep playing until our player's dead, right? Well, we have a way to calculate whether they're dead or not. It's called is alive, all right? So if we make our loop here and say while player dot is alive, it was literally, did I spell it wrong? It's literally right here. Is alive. There we go. We can play the game, and you can see it outputs a bool, which is what while needs. It's a true or false condition, right? If we look here, we have our Boolean values, false and true, right? So as long as everything is true here, the game will keep playing. So this game is going to automatically play itself until the player dies, because we're not going to put in any player input right now. All right. So every time this loops, so we're going to go forever. The first thing we need to do is every time this loops, it'll be kind of like the start of a new level. All right. So what we're going to do in here is we're going to spawn a new mob. All right. So we're going to say, I don't know, let's call these ones like goblin. All right. Goblin's going to be equal to fightable.mob. All right. So we got our mob here, and now we want to fight it. All right. We want to fight it until either our player dies or the mob dies. All right. So we're going to say another while loop. All right. Another while loop. Play while the player dot is alive, or and goblin is, why does it keep going away? So this is our fight. All right. So if this right here is our big game loop, this is our fighting loop. All right. You guys ever play Pokemon or something? You know, there's the game itself, which is a while loop. All right. Because every loop of the game will generate a new frame. All right. Will generate a new frame that displays what's going on. When you enter in a fight, that's going to be another loop inside of a larger loop, all right? A larger game loop, all right? So right here, we have another loop that's for fighting, all right? And we're going to keep fighting forever while the player and the goblin is alive, all right? Once one of them die, then this loop will end, all right? Because we're using an and. So with an and, they must both be alive at the same time, all right? They must both be true. So in here, we're going to have our goblin and players fight each other. So we're going to say player gets advantage. So player is going to attack first. This would change, obviously, if you want to build in a concept of speed, right? But we're not going to get that fine grain right now. So player is going to attack. This is going to return our damage. When the player attacks, he wants to attack the goblin. So we're going to say goblin dot take damage, and it's going to take damage from the player. Then we're going to Uno reverse card that. The goblin's going to attack the player. So I'm just going to copy and paste things around, and that is our entire fight loop. All right, that is it. That's our entire fight loop. So now they'll automatically fight each other. All right, so we don't really have much for stat trackers here. So what we'll just do right here is we'll just put a little print, killed a goblin. All right, and we'll go ahead and print out our player's health. So player dot current health. All right, so that way we can see what his health is at the end of killing a goblin. So again, recap. In our game loop, we made a player, right, from hero. Then we started our big overall game loop, right? Our actual first game loop. And this, our game will keep playing forever while the player is still alive. At the beginning of this loop, every single time we're going to spawn in a brand new goblin. When we spawn in a brand new goblin, we will immediately start our fight scene, all right? We will immediately start our fight scene. When we do that, we want our fight scene to go on forever until either the player or the goblin dies. And we do that with this logic here. We want to loop forever while the player is alive and the goblin is alive. All right? While the player is alive and the goblin is alive. The goblin will take damage first because player has advantage, and then the player will take damage from the goblin. When one of them die, then it will go on to here. You'll only get onto this code if you've killed a goblin. So it will say you've killed a goblin, it will say the player's current health, and then we'll loop back up the top and start fighting again. So let's see this in action. All right, let's see this in action. If we click on play, we can go and say start our game. So we'll press 0 and press enter, and bam. It says we killed a goblin, our player health was 10. We killed a goblin, and then our player health dropped to 0. All right, and then we died, and the game ended. Pretty epic. All right, we got the start of our game down here. I think this also prints. Is this printing also if you're no? We'll figure out any bugs later. All right, this is just kind of the concept. Do we need another line saying to end the loop when health is equal to 0? No. Because is player alive does that logic. It's right here. If our current health is less than or equal to 0, it's going to return false. When it returns false, everything will end. So both of these lines will cause the loop to end. All right? So you don't have to do any additional logic. This is the great thing about offloading things to custom functions like this, because this is what we have in here right now. But if you wanted to go over the top, which some games do, maybe 0 isn't when your health, when you are dead. Maybe you have a revive pack that gets activated, or you search for in their inventory before you claim someone as dead. This allows you to potentially do lots of custom logic, all right? Lots of custom logic before you actually report yourself as dead or alive. All right, and it keeps these while loops simple and easy for someone to understand. I can show someone this while loop who barely understands how to program, and they can kind of guess what is supposed to happen, right? What is supposed to happen? That's kind of the ideal state you want to be in. In a state where you've made it, you know, really clean, so you can be lazy later, all right? You can be lazy later, and it's easy to read and understand, all right? Easy to read and understand. Just reading around here. All right. And we keep mentioning games, but this literally is the same for everything. Whether you're working on enterprise level products, or you're working on games, or whatever else you end up doing, this is the same. You want to keep things as clean and nice looking and transparent as possible. Some of my defined variables didn't transfer over. Well, you can, all the code will be posted in the supporters chat for all Patreon and Discord premium members. So you can grab a copy of the code in there afterwards. All right, so let us see here. We have our players fighting it out, or our singular player fighting it out with a bunch of goblins right now. Things are kind of auto-playing itself. That's fine. If we look at our design doc, we've now completed player, we've completed mobs. We do have these concepts of drop tables and weapons, which it looks like we're supposed to make as a class. Hint, hint. We did finish main menu, so we can say done on that. We finished all of this stuff, so we can say done, 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 done. We did finish this. We have a game loop that starts. We do have a way to spawn enemies. We do have a way to fight an enemy. If an enemy is dead, we are doing that, but not this stuff underneath. So we'll just keep it like this right now. Loading a floor, not really, but it looks like we're almost halfway done with our game, which is pretty impressive. We didn't really have to write that much code, to be honest. All right, this is what, 39 with lots of spaces in between it, and this is 37, so less than 100 lines of code. All right, and we almost have a full-on like RPG style game. That's the power of Python. All right, if we were to write this in C, it would be probably 5 times as long. All right, which you guys will get to experience here soon. So the challenge today, right? The challenge today, primary weapon and weapon class. All right, we want our character to hold and find weapons. And these weapons, we want to have some type of special damage attached to them, so it modifies our attack damage here, so we can do more damage. I'm not saying build the whole loot system, but I am saying that our hero, when he first spawns in, right here, right, when he first spawns in, our init class fires off. So maybe we should spawn a weapon here that's not just a weapon, but a class that manufactures weapons, and those weapons will be various things. Maybe a basic sword. So we make a basic sword, give that to ourselves, and that will have attached to it maybe a concept of damage, crit chance, you could do like a concept of melee or ranged. Don't even do that right now. Just do like damage, and then what do you call it? Crit chance. Let's do that. All right, damage and crit chance. That should be damage itself would be really basic. Crit chance makes us have to do a little bit more calculation here in our attack, which will be fun. All right, which will be fun. So let's do those two concepts. So again, I want you guys to make a weapons class that allows you to make weapon objects, and those objects should just have, all I'm looking for is damage and crit chance. All right, damage and crit chance. Once you do that, primary weapon here should spawn in a default weapon they get. Maybe it's a rusty sword. Maybe it's their fists. All right, maybe it's their fists that you have that as an actual weapon. I don't care. It just needs to be some type of weapon that you generate from that class. It needs to go into primary weapon. Then you need to modify. How you modify this, I don't care if you just flat add everything. That's just fine. Right? The point is, I want you guys to modify particularly this one right here. So if they do have a primary weapon, they get added damage to their attack. All right, at a minimum it should be something like base attack plus the weapon attack plus crit chance. All right, if you don't know how to calculate out crit chance, just add the crit chance. All right, it's not really ideal, but at least you've included it. All right, that's what I'm looking for today's challenge. Any questions on that? Crit chance is critical hit. So a lot of games have a concept of it. So for example, if I'm like swinging a sword at you, maybe it usually does 5 damage, but I have 1% chance to maybe one of those swings will be critical. So if it's a 1% chance of me hitting you and it's critical, that swing could do, it's up to you, 50% more damage, 100% more damage, 10 million% more damage. It's totally up to you. But I'm not, if that's a super far along challenge, if you want to, it's not difficult, but if you guys want to do your logic in here to factor in crit chance properly, if not, if you're not going to go that far, then just do addition. Add the crit chance and the weapon damage and the base attack all together for your attack damage. Yeah, it's not a Pokemon specific thing, but it is very, very common for pretty much every game to have critical strikes in it. Like, for example, you know, the, what do you call it? Call of Duty and stuff. They have crit chance. It's not really crit chance in the way you think of it. It's more like if I shoot you in the chest, you'll do like maybe normal, 100% normal damage. But if I headshot you, it's going to be like 2 times damage, right? 2 times is the equivalent of 200%, all right? 200%. So that would be your crit chance, you know. Yeah, if you guys don't, if the terms that I'm saying don't make any sense or you never heard of them, because I am using, like, the term mob is definitely like a game dev term, all right? So if you don't understand terms like that, please let me know and I'll clarify them. This is not a programming term. This is not a programming term. Crit is not a programming term. Weapons, primary weapons, inventory, these are not programming terms. These are just game related terms, all right? So try not to be caught up on those. You don't have to, again, you don't have to copy everything I do 100%. If mob is too confusing for you, you can call this enemy. All right, you can call this enemy. You can call this anything you want. All right, that will work just fine. They're just, again, they're just variables. They're just names at the end of the day. They can be anything you want them to be. Why are they called mobs? I understand what they refer to, but not sure why it's called that. I think they're called, I'm not quite sure myself, to be honest. I think it's supposed to be like slang for monsters, but it got like altered. Mob, define mob video game. Additionally, the other thing I could think of is oh, here we go. Good old Wikipedia coming in. Mob is short for mobile object, which is in reference to an NPC. So I can, like I said, in the programming world, people make up names for names that already exist. So so NPC is already a name for a non-playable character, which would be anything that could be a shopkeeper, an enemy. It could be anything that's just not you, the person that's playing the game. If that term wasn't good enough, they made mob on top of that. All right, so whoops. So there you go. Coming in clutch again, Wikipedia. All right, saving the day. So there we go. You'll notice as you start learning things, if you haven't already noticed in your job, because I don't know what your guys' fields are, but it's pretty much the same for every job field. Plumbing, programming, IT, accounting, I don't know, you name it. It's the same for every job field. There's lots of acronyms in lots of short-term or shorthand terms and stuff like that. Sometimes you know what those acronyms mean. Sometimes you don't know what they like mean, but you know what they are. All right, that's a okay thing. All right, it happens all the time in the programming world. It's okay if you memorize the acronyms. All right, it's okay if you memorize the acronyms. That the point is, you know that's a thing that exists. All right, it's a thing that exists. All right, sweet. So I don't see any other questions rolling in. So that's your guys' challenge today. I got harder stuff to understand. Exactly. That's your guys' challenge today. Go ahead, go forward with that. Look, there's Codex. I put those links in there. Use Codex if you think that's going to help you. All right. You can use Codex in the exam. All right. You can use Codex, OpenAI. We actually had some questions come in yesterday in regards to the exam. Yes, you can use the internet in the exam. We're not going to because some places will use a parent program that will pretty much lock your computer down so you can't do anything. We don't use that. You can use the internet. You can Google things for both parts of the exam. The time limitation is very restricting. You will not pass. I could give it to you right now and tell you good luck, Google it. You will not pass unless you study. All right? You will not pass unless you study. The time restrictions are very tight for a reason, because we know you can Google these things and you can try to figure them out from your Googling. All right? You're not going to pass though unless you have them memorized. Same thing with the actual practical. You can use things like Codex to help you. Do it. I encourage it. It's not going to help you pass. All right? It's not going to help you pass unless you know what you're doing. All right? If you don't know what you're doing, you're not going to be able to pass, even if you're using Codex. All right? It's not that smart. All right? It's not that smart. All right. Sweet. All right. That's all I got for you guys. So I'll see you guys tomorrow on the next one.